Well, most of you heard of Britney Spears. She's an idiot. H.G. Wells, you probably haven't heard of him because he's a genius. We're taught to worship our idiots and ignore our geniuses. But I think this is a mistake. I have nothing against Britney Spears, but I think we should spend more time with H.G. Wells, and we're going to start today. Or this other one, this Madonna. What the fuck is she on? 4 minutes till midnight. I mean, we had that song 40 years ago, or 2 Minutes to Midnight by Iron Maiden, and it was a lot better, and it made a lot more sense. And she's just being one of those silly little bitches trying to make money, suckering up to the moronic, media-bred, whatever. Okay, we'll start now. This process, which is called natural selection, is not so much a scientific theory, is a necessary deduction from the fact of reproduction and individual difference. There may be many forces at work varying, destroying, and preserving species, about which science is still unaware or undecided. But the man who can deny the operation of this process of natural selection upon life since its beginning must be either ignorant of the elementary facts of life or incapable of ordinary thought. Okay, that's page 13. From verse 4, the age of the fishes. In chapter 4 back then. Now we get chapter 12, I think. Primitive thought. And it goes something like, we're reading from page 40. Systematic thinking is apparently a comparatively late development in human experience. It has not played any great part in human life until within the last 3,000 years. And even today, those who really control and order their thoughts are but a small minority of mankind. Most of the world still lives by imagination and passion. Okay, this be from chapter 22. It's page 81 if you get the same edition I do. Or you get the same edition I do. And it goes on. And that was this little people, the Jews, who were sent back to build their city of Jerusalem by Cyrus the Persian. And they were able to do this because they had got together this literature of theirs, their Bible, in Babylon. It is not so much the Jews who made the Bible as the Bible which made the Jews. Running through this Bible were certain ideas, different from the ideas of the people about them, very stimulating and sustaining ideas, to which they were destined to cling through 25 centuries of hardship, adventure, and oppression. Okay, we're up to chapter 25 now, the splendor of Greece, and this is a quote from Plato. Plato said plainly to mankind, "Most of the social and political ills from which you suffer are under your control, given only the will and courage to change them. You can live in another and wiser fashion if you choose to think it out and work it out. You are not awake to your own power." Well, I like to think he's talking about Esau here, but we're still in chapter 25. What is it? Oh, it's still whatever it was. Splendor of Greece, yes, of course. The childlike, dreamlike methods of primitive thought has given way to a disciplined and critical attack upon the problem of life. The weird and monstrous symbolism and imagery of the gods and god-monsters, and all the taboos and awes and restraints that have hitherto encumbered thinking are here completely set aside. Free, exact, and systematic thinking has begun. The fresh and the unencumbered mind of these newcomers out of the northern forests has thrust itself into the mysteries of the temple and let the daylight in. In chapter 37, the teaching of Jesus, and we're on to page 145. The Jews were persuaded that God, the one God of the whole world, was a righteous God, but they also thought of him as a trading God who had made a bargain with their father Abraham about them, a very good bargain indeed for them, to bring them at last to the predominance in the earth. With dismay and anger they heard Jesus sweeping away their dear securities. God, he taught, was not a bargainer. There were no chosen people and no favorites in the kingdom of heaven. God was the loving Father of all life, is incapable of showing favor is the universal Son, and all men were brothers, sinners alike, and alike beloved sons of their divine Father. Still with the teachings of Jesus, page 147. Well hath Esaias prophesied of you hypocrites, as it is written, This people honoureth me with their lips, but their heart is far from me. Howbeit in vain do they worship me, teaching for doctrines the commandments of men. From laying aside the commandment of God, ye hold the tradition of men, is the washing of pots and cups, and many other such like things ye do. And he said unto them, Full well ye reject the commandment of God, that ye may keep your own traditions. The Roman Empire, where are we? Sorry, chapter 40, page 159. The Huns and the Western Empire. The Roman Empire was, after all, a very primitive organization. It did not educate, did not explain itself to its increasing multitudes of citizens, did not invite their cooperation in its decisions. There was no network of schools to ensure a common understanding, no distribution of news to sustain collective activity. The adventurers who struggled for power from the days of Marius and Sulla onward had no idea of creating and calling in public opinion upon the imperial affairs. The spirit of citizenship died of starvation, and no one observed it die. All empires, all states, all organizations of human society are, in the ultimate, things of understanding and will. There remained no will for the Roman Empire in the world, and so it came to an end. But though the Latin-speaking Roman Empire died in the 5th century, something else had been born within it that was to avail itself enormously of its prestige and tradition, and that was the Latin-speaking half of the Catholic Church. This lived while the empire died because it appealed to the minds and the will of men, because it had books and great systems of teachers and missionaries to hold it together, things stronger than any law or legions. Throughout the 4th and 5th centuries AD, while the empire was decaying, Christianity was spreading to an universal domination in Europe. It conquered its conquerors, the barbarians. When Attila seemed disposed to march on Rome, the Patriarch of Rome intercepted him and did what no army could do, turned him back by sheer moral force. The Patriarch, or Pope, or of Rome, claimed to be the head of the entire Christian Church. Now that there were no more emperors, he began to annex imperial titles and claims. He took the title of Pontifex Maximus, head sacrificial priest of the Roman dominion, the most ancient of all titles that the emperors had enjoyed. Chapter 43, page 168. We're talking about Muhammad. That was back in 632. He dedicated a book of injunctions and expositions, the Quran, which he declared was communicated to him from God. Regarded as literature or philosophy, the Quran is certainly unworthy of its alleged divine authorship.